Cowabunga dudes. So it's been almost 24 hours since my recent endoscopy, and I still have gastritis. I have chronic gastritis, which absolutely sucks. I've had it for almost a year and a half now. It started last April when I began getting very severe stomach pains. One night I just started getting very severe stomach pains, and over the course of a couple of days my stomach like ballooned to like double the size. It was just so like distended and swollen and bloated that I could hardly eat anything. And since then I've had the feeling of very early satiety, like very early fullness. Most of the time I've hardly been able to eat anything because I'm constantly so full. Even on an empty stomach, like 24 hours a day, I feel full up. My stomach just feels so full up, like and bloated, like it's gonna, like almost like I've just had like 4 meals in a row and I'm just so stuffed. But I'm actually very hungry because I haven't eaten anything, but it feels like I've had loads to eat at the same time. So I'm very hungry because I haven't been able to eat much, but at the same time my stomach feels so full that it's incredibly difficult to eat anything. And that started last April. And my stomach became more distended and more swollen and like bloated, even though I was hardly eating anything. So my stomach was getting bigger, although I was losing a lot of weight. In those first few months I lost a ton of weight because I just couldn't hardly eat anything. I went from about, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was definitely over 10 kilos. I definitely lost over 20 pounds just because I couldn't hardly eat anything. So that sucked because it's very difficult to put on muscle, and I just lost a ton of muscle. So obviously I was in a lot of pain and discomfort. Went straight to the doctors after the first couple of days. I was put on omeprazole, which is a proton pump inhibitor, I think it's called. It blocks the acid production in your stomach because a lot of these things can be caused by too much acid in your stomach. Unfortunately that didn't help much at all. So I was given another different kind of anti-acid medication. I think it was called a H2 blocker, and I was taking omeprazole and a H2 blocker together. So I was taking those for a couple of months and they didn't really seem to be helping, so I tried coming off of them, and then immediately things just got like 10 times worse. All of my symptoms, like my bloated stomach, stomach pains and things like that, just got so much worse. So even though the omeprazole didn't seem to be helping much while I was taking it, coming off of it made things a lot worse. So obviously it was helping in some way. So after the first couple of months it became quite obvious that I wasn't getting any better, I was getting much worse. So I was referred from my GP to the hospital, to the NHS, to see a specialist and to get an endoscopy. Ended up having to wait quite a while. I got the endoscopy, I got a colonoscopy and endoscopy in September. So I had to wait quite a while. So if you're not familiar, an endoscopy is, or gastroscopy, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is when they put a tube with a camera on the end down your throat, past your esophagus, into your stomach, into the lower part of your stomach, or most upper part of your small intestine. And then a colonoscopy is the more scary sounding one, which is when they send another camera up your bum, into your colon, and check things out there. And it all sounds really scary, but it's nowhere near as bad as you're probably making it out to be. It's definitely not painful. It was uncomfortable for me, it was very uncomfortable for me, but it wasn't painful. Just something you have to put up with and deal with to find out what is wrong with you. So 1 week before the procedure I had to come off of the omeprazole because apparently it sticks to the inside of your stomach and blocks, it makes it getting a clear image difficult. So that made things worse again, coming off the omeprazole. And you have to fast when you're having a colonoscopy 24 hours before the procedure, which, yeah, absolutely sucks. The morning before, 24 hours before, I had my last meal at 8 AM, and I think the next day I had the procedure at like 9 AM, something like that. So the night before the procedure, at about 8 PM, I have to start taking some extremely strong powdered laxative. They give you like 4 sachets or something like that. And boy oh boy, bloody hell, does this stuff just rinse you out. Just, again, not painful or anything, but just unpleasant. You just be prepared. If you have to do the colonoscopy prep with a laxative, you're going to be sitting on the toilet all night. I didn't get much sleep at all. I was pretty much sitting on the toilet all night, weeing out of my bum, pretty much. So just be ready for that. Okay, you have to have the laxative every 2 hours and drink loads of water to help flush everything out again, so that your your intestines are going to be empty, so they can get a clear image, find out what's wrong with you. So the next morning, after very little sleep, turned up the hospital about just before 9 AM. They do all the checks on like your heart rate, your blood pressure and things like that. Now, because it can be quite a distressing experience for some people, got a lot of anxiety, sort of going into it, you can have some sedation just to chill you out and make the whole thing a lot easier. I chose to have sedation the first time. They just put a little cannula, needle in the back of your hand. When you're on the operating theatre table, it's not really an operation or surgery, but you still go into this like operating theatre type of room. They give you a nice little hospital gown thing with your bum hanging out. You take your underwear off. So you go into the operating theatre. They'll give you some anaesthetic spray. They'll spray it into the back of your throat. You have to stick your tongue out, open your mouth, and they'll spray it in a bunch of times. When they first spray it in, that definitely made me gag. That was not too pleasant, but it just numbs everything from your tongue like all the way down here, so you don't really feel anything. But it's really a strange feeling, because you feel like you've got like a big lump in the back of your throat down here, literally feels like an apple stuck in your throat, and you can't clear it. Makes you want to like cough. Yeah, so that numbs everything down here, so you won't really feel any pain at all. It's just an uncomfortable experience, but it's not painful. So it's this big long tube. It's quite thin with a camera on the end, and they put that in your mouth down the back of your throat, and that goes into your stomach. They give you like a bite guard. It's kind of like a gum shieldy type thing that stops you biting down, because the tube, the endoscope, is very hard, and if you bite down on it, you'll break your teeth. So they'll give you they'll give you like a mouth guard that stops you biting down, and the endoscope passes through a hole in the middle of that. Now, if you're having the sedation, they will just have injected you with that before the procedure, so by this time you'll probably be like proper spaced out, and that really does chill you out and relax you. Now, when the endoscope went down my throat, you can see it all on the screen, big screen. You can see everything through the camera on the big TV screen, like off to the side. And apparently, most people are absolutely fine. I was gagging and retching like crazy. My body just did not want that tube, that camera, to be going down my throat. It was just like it was trying to vomit it back up. So it was extremely uncomfortable, but not painful in any way. So if you're worried about this being painful, if you're dreading it, got anxiety about it, it's nothing to worry about. It's just uncomfortable. It's not painful at all. The endoscopy part, going down the throat part, was quite quick. It's a couple of minutes, 5 minutes max. They go down the esophagus, into the stomach, into the duodenum, the deeper part of the stomach, and then like the very top of the small intestines. And what they found is gastritis, which is inflammation, burning of the stomach lining. So it gave me a diagnosis, gastritis, just my stomach lining has been burned away. So it's kind of a relief that it wasn't something more sinister, wasn't a severe ulcer or cancer or anything like that. It kind of looks like your stomach is burnt on the inside. I saw it up on the screen. The sort of burnt area looks really wrinkly and crinkly, almost like a bunch of worms on the inside of your stomach. Really weird looking, but yeah, at least that gave me a diagnosis. And then the colonoscopy they did straight away. They did that like a couple of minutes later with a different tube. This was the part that I was dreading big time, but they give it plenty of lube, so you don't, and you're out of it completely, well, with the sedation, so you don't really you don't really know what's going on. You don't really feel much. None of it was painful. So they send the camera up. This part of the procedure, the colonoscopy, took quite a bit longer. It was like 10 minutes long, maybe. And they go quite far up. And when they go as far up as they can get, they kind of turn the camera around, turn the tube around, and then they come back to, I guess, to get a different angle. That was probably the most uncomfortable part of the colonoscopy. But when they go all the way up, and then they do this with the stomach as well. When they go down, they blow air into it, and then they come back out. So that's probably the most uncomfortable part. But the endoscopy was much worse for me. The endoscopy was much worse, much more uncomfortable because of the retching and the gagging. But neither were painful. They took a biopsy sample of the gastritis in my stomach, so they could test for H. pylori, and that took like a month to come back. But yeah, nothing to worry about really. In the UK, they don't really do the anaesthetic that sends you to sleep. They just give you sedation and a anaesthetic spray in the back of the throat. And yeah, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but it's not painful at all. It's nothing to worry about. And to find out what is wrong with you and to be able to treat you, to get treatment get the right treatment, it's just something you got to do and something you got to put up with. So definitely nothing to worry about. So about a month later, in October, I started to feel better. So I came off the omeprazole, came off the medicine, and unfortunately, you know, that seems to have been a big mistake. The doctor and I thought that, you know, it had cleared up, it had gone away, and that was that. But over the winter, over the next sort of 6 months, I noticed I kept feeling ill, weak, dizzy, nauseous, and getting mucus and saliva, lots of it, coming up into the back of my throat and onto my tongue. This would happen like once a month, once every few weeks, and I just thought I was getting run down, I was like getting a cold or, you know, a 24-hour bug. And I thought the gastritis had just gone because I wasn't having any more bloating, any more stomach pain, and my stomach felt good. And then April of this year, so about 6 months later, all of my symptoms come back in full force. My stomach ballooned like twice the size again. I started losing weight because I couldn't hardly eat anything. Very full up all the time, very hungry and weak, dizzy and nauseous all the time. But this, they call it water brash. When the excess acid comes up and produces a lot of saliva and mucus in the back of your throat and your mouth, that I've had that 24/7 ever since April. So I've had this for about 5 months with all the stomach pain and bloating. So as of April this year, I've been back on the omeprazole to try and lower the acid in my stomach. That didn't seem to be helping much. So as of May, I've been on a much higher dose of omeprazole, so 20 milligrams twice a day. That didn't seem to be helping much. So last month I was put on triple therapy treatment, just in case this was caused by H. pylori, which is an infection in your stomach. So I was taking the high dose of omeprazole and 2 different types of antibiotics as well, just in case it was caused by the virus. It will just wipe that out. And that takes us up to about 2 weeks ago. And I stopped the antibiotics, and then 7 days ago I had to stop taking the omeprazole. This time I only got the endoscopy, and that was yesterday. So not having to take the laxatives because it's only going down to your stomach was a lot better. I just had to stop eating 6 hours before the procedure, and then I was allowed to drink water up until about 2 hours before the procedure. But yeah, this time I didn't have to like strip down. I got to keep my clothes on. They just gave me a little gown to go over the top of my clothes. I really couldn't be bothered to get a needle into my hand again, so I didn't have the sedation this time because it was just going to be an endoscopy. So they checked my blood pressure and heart rate, did the usual questionnaire, and then I was taken into the little operating theatre. I was given the anaesthetic spray in the back of my throat again, which again made me like cough up and gag and stuff. Made me feel like I had a big big lump in my back of my throat. But then it kicks in, and then you can't feel anything at all. It's absolutely fine. Put the little bite guard, mouth guard thing in, put the endoscope down your throat, and oh man, gagging and retching this time was like 10 times worse. I really struggled with it yesterday. My body just did not want want that thing going down my throat. Yeah, got all the way down into my stomach. Again, found out I had gastritis. I've got erosive gastritis. So at this point, yeah, I've got chronic gastritis. I've had it for like a year and a half now. But the good news is I don't have a severe ulcer. I don't have stomach cancer. So yeah, it was very unpleasant, but it was over in like 5 minutes. I checked my heart rate and my blood pressure out before I went, made sure I was feeling alright, and then I was out the door in a couple of minutes. It really wasn't too bad. Having it without the sedation didn't really make too much of a difference. I mean, it just means I wasn't as chilled out and relaxed, but yeah, even though it was extremely uncomfortable this time, more so than last time, it still wasn't painful. So honestly, if you're worried about getting an endoscopy, nothing to worry about. Absolutely nothing to worry about. It's over so quickly and it's not painful, so I'm sure you'll be fine. So yeah, I'm staying on the omeprazole from, well, indefinitely really. It looks like I came off of it too early last year in October, and during those 6 months where I wasn't taking omeprazole, it looks like I still had the gastritis and it just got a lot worse. I just didn't recognise the water brush symptoms, the mucus and saliva coming up in my throat until April, where all the acid started burning everything up here, and started getting the stomach pain, and sort of put the pieces together and figured out, yeah, it's probably the same thing. So I went in to see my GP, to see my doctor today, and it looks like I'm probably going to be on the omeprazole indefinitely. The doctor was saying to me, like, I might need to be on this stuff for a year, which is fine by me. I don't get any bad side effects from the omeprazole. I know some people do. I mean, my gastritis symptoms are so bad that it's hard to tell. I really don't think I get any negative side effects from the omeprazole. So if I have to keep taking this stuff for another year to get rid of this gastritis, which has made me feel extremely weak, dizzy, nauseous, hungry all the time, but incredibly bloated with a distended stomach. I've had this for 5 months this year, 5 months last year. If it takes a year of taking this omeprazole to fix this, then that's just what I got to do. I've got no problem with that. Well, that's everything I've got to say about gastritis and my endoscopy and colonoscopy experience. Cowabunga, dudes.